The Everything Sequel podcast is brought to you by 2T Fitness and the Vegas Beer Guys.
The Everything Sequel podcast contains explicit language, and I will not go to my room. Hello and welcome to the Everything Sequel podcast. This is the 1997 Singles Edition. Mortal Kombat Annihilation today. Michael Shantz here of the How Dare You Awards. Joining me, the man with the flying kicks, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Kick 'em, Tom.
You keep talking about mergers and realms and all that, but it don't mean squat to me, all right? Now, I'm not saying that that's not a completely accurate statement
Right.
for this film to make. And I'm not saying that we don't need an audience surrogate. I just wish it wasn't the only African-American character in the film who didn't get it.
Right.
The character in this movie called Jax, who speaks only in racist placeholder dialogue. At one point, he says...
It's something to behold, I gotta tell you.
At one point, he says, and I quote, "Ain't going on no suicide mission."
God damn it.
And I just like the idea that they will... like, as soon as he said that, they give him a glass of poisoned milk. He dies and wakes up in the afterlife. How'd I get here?
Yeah.
B.A. Baracus style.
I was just gonna say, B.A. Baracus style. It's like when B.A. wakes up on the plane.
Yeah. Yeah, he never figured that out.
No.
It happened to him once a week for about 8 years, and he never figured out that they were drugging him every
As
time.
far as he was concerned, he just was susceptible to a lot of mosquito bites. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Somehow we find ourselves talking about Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
We knew this day would come.
Yeah,
it was prophesized.
One of the three 1997 single sequels. This one is directed by John R. Leonetti, director of Annabelle, which actually kind of surprised me.
Whoa.
And the Butterfly.
I mean, I haven't seen that movie, but I understand it's a competently made movie.
Exactly. And the Butterfly Effect 2, which made more sense.
Okay. Right.
And obviously we will visit at some point.
Is that a studio?
I think that was a direct
release,
to
though?
video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Huh. So it was is Annabelle Blumhouse?
I'm not sure Blumhouse was together yet.
Okay.
I think it's pre-Blumhouse.
I was wondering who gave him his break on Annabelle, because that was a big movie,
Yeah.
big-ish movie. So certainly not someone who'd seen this.
I'm telling you. If you
Because this looks like a pirated copy of a movie.
I have notes that says, this looks like the most ambitious high school project ever.
It really does. I mean, some of the bleached cartoon CGI skies
man.
look just like the kind of mid-90s camcorder student video projects that I saw all throughout my my schooling.
Well, and you, of course, listed Speed 2 Cruise Control as your favorite of these three single sequels.
Correct.
And for the sake of humor, I guess, because...
This is your favorite.
This is my favorite. I realize that if you were to say to someone, Mortal Kombat Annihilation was your favorite of the single sequels from 1997... it deserves outright laughter, even when you know that the other two are Speed 2 Cruise Control and American Werewolf in Paris.
Well, that's the trivia question right there.
Right.
Isn't it? Mortal Kombat Annihilation is my favorite of three films. What are the other two films?
Yeah, exactly. Just because... I mean, we're already alluding to it. This looks like a high school project. This movie... does not look competently made when you look at the director also directing Annabelle.
Or anything.
Or anything else. And yet,
I'm just surprised he returned to directing.
To direct
after
ever,
this.
exactly.
Yes.
But I had so much fun when I watched this movie.
Fair enough. I felt the same way about Speed 2, and I'm not going to give you shit about you running with the good feeling you got from the film, because that's how I feel about Speed 2, and they're both terrible.
Right. They're both terrible, but I also had the same feeling. I remember hating Speed 2 when I saw it in the theater, and that probably has to do with when you're wrapped up with expectations and you want a good movie, and it's
So have
not
you seen
that.
Mortal Kombat?
No.
No, neither have I. I was.
Oh,
really
wait, do you mean the
had...
original?
Yes.
I'd seen the original.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions. I don't suspect you can answer any of them.
I can't say I remember a lot. What I remember mostly...
But I will keep asking them.
What I remember...
Because most of my notes begin with... Now, I'm not sure because I haven't seen Mortal Kombat.
But... most of my time watching
the
Mortal
first of these
Kombat...
being, where does that movie end and where does this film begin?
Exactly, right. Because, most of my time spent watching Mortal Kombat Annihilation was me looking at the cast list for Mortal Kombat, because I was sure I was seeing the same characters played by different actors, and of course I was right.
Wow.
But there's, this movie's insane. First of all, this movie and Speed 2, I think I have this right, they are both 4% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right.
Now, in some ways, that of course makes sense.
No,
but
they're not 4%. They're not 4%.
But at the same time, well, you can't tell me that this is a competently made movie.
But
I have to imagine more than 4% enjoying the absurd ride that these two movies, put you on.
It's 10 or 15 I will allow.
Yeah.
4 is, when that's the percentage of, milk fat you get in things. That's not... If you're a movie with that kind of percentage, there really is unwatchable at that point.
Yeah, right.
And these aren't unwatchable movies. They're very watchable movies, I think.
I think so too. And you know what's funny?
That counts for a lot when you have no choice but to watch them.
Well, I'll tell you what surprised the hell out of me for this movie. One, a budget of $30 million.
Okay.
That's a lot of 1997 money. Two.
It is. And I think I know where that went.
Bad CGI.
I think that went on locations.
Oh, yeah, and locations.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think it went on the CGI. I think it went on securing locations. But, typical of this movie, you can really do one or the other.
Yeah,
right?
right.
You could have a completely computer-generated landscape, which they do at times, or you can make it location-based. There's no sense in mixing the two.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this movie does. But it doesn't even mix them. It's just the first half of the movie is entirely computer generated.
Right.
The second half is practical.
It's practical, right.
So it can't even get that balance right.
Well, until you get to, the last fight. Because then we go heavy on CGI villains.
True. That's true.
But, so a budget of $30 million, and here's the real surprise. Opening weekend, $16.7 million. In the USA, made $35.9 million. And in the world, $51.3 million. I got to tell you, more than any other bad movie I've watched for this podcast or the How Dare You podcast, that's an impressive total for a movie that is on this level. $51.3 million.
Wow.
So people, I don't know, must like the game an awful lot.
Maybe it makes sense in other cultures. I'm perfectly willing to believe that.
Right.
Maybe you watch you watch movies from different cultures and sometimes you can't crack the cultural code.
True.
So maybe accidentally this movie made a film that is perfect in some parts of the world.
Somewhere.
Not in the English speaking world,
no.
But somewhere.
Somewhere, somehow. Yeah, so, well, let's...
That said, if you'd have told me this was a dubbed foreign movie, I would go, yeah, sure.
Right. You would not believe that for a second.
No. In fact, that would, again, I think...
It would make a lot, yeah.
You like the dream theory, the operational dream theory of Speed 2, that would help me understand
absolutely
why this movie exists.
Well, let's start, if nowhere else, right from the top.
Yeah, because we have titles in this movie.
Oh man, do we?
Both literally and metaphorically come in hot.
That's my note. That's my exact note.
No.
Yes. My first note is Mortal Kombat yell and cool world music coming in hot.
Right, so because we've got a very aggressive mid-90s techno beat.
Yeah.
Yes. And then not only do we see the title, it's also shouted at us.
Not once, but twice.
But twice. And, the literal... There's also literal heat here because flames are flying at the camera lens.
Right. So
I gotta ask if you know anything about this music, because is this the music that you would get in the video game?
Oh, I have no idea. I never really played the game.
Neither did I.
Or very rarely.
Neither did I. I have heard this music elsewhere. I'm pretty sure it's the music that's playing in the lesbian bar in The Simpsons when Homer... You remember that scene where Homer's in a lesbian bar? What's her problem?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure it's playing there.
Well, I was pretty sure, and this is why it was my first note, I was pretty sure that it was from the movie Cool World.
Oh, God. I have another movie reference.
Really?
I think this is like a stock library track. It must be, because I'm pretty sure it's in Gary Oldman's Cultural Appropriation Club in True Romance.
Oh wow!
I'm pretty sure this is the music that's playing when Christian Slater's getting the shit.
Yeah, that does sound familiar. It also sounds vaguely like the music they're dancing to in Basic Instinct.
Oh my God! Well, all of these are not only plausible, they're likely.
Yeah.
So maybe it is just like an uncopyrighted beat.
It's like that sample that Vanilla Ice took for Ice Ice Baby. That's not a sample that he took. It's like that. It just exists for everyone.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, all of this, by the way, is followed by what I'm calling a Superman 2 style recap.
Yeah, straight into a recap montage with... Oh, well, I guess it also has a catch-up voiceover.
Yeah.
Which it's as lengthy as Superman 2.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is the point where I didn't really know, is this the end of the last movie?
Yeah,
Has this movie started? Because they say they use the phrase "return to Earth," and for someone who hasn't seen the original and only seen this recap, I didn't know we were on Earth.
Right. Why would you when the sky looks red and
right?
And
then it's just a few minutes of cinematic techniques coming thick and fast.
Mm-hmm.
Fire, things and people flying at the camera, a Dutch tilt. Bleached images, CGI skies.
Right.
No sense of how all of these techniques relate to each other.
No, not at all.
They're just being deployed like like someone just opened the floodgates.
Well, and it's funny because
a lot of cinematic techniques just poured out.
Right. Just like a turned on faucet.
Yes.
I know how to do this, so this is what I'll do. I've heard about this.
Which is why it looks like a high school project.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I have found this setting on my camcorder. I'm going to use it.
Yes, exactly.
Whether it need to use it or not.
Whether I need to use it or not, this is what I'm going to do.
This is also where I had the note. I'm not sure what's happening either visually or in terms of the story.
Well, that's because this whole...
You have an answer? Wow.
I do. I mean, like,
wow.
So what I imagined as I'm watching the first 5 to 7 minutes of this movie is the director and the editor sitting in a room together, and they keep asking each other questions, and the answer is always, it doesn't matter. You know? Because there are... You know, my notes are like, there are people flying into frame. There's people flying all over. I'm hearing words like, you have 6 days, but I don't know why it's 6 days. You know?
Well, I have that note later. I think, you know, when it's very clear from the outset that when ninjas flip into the camera, it's there to distract us.
Yeah, exactly, right.
It's there. It's there to sort of. It's there so we don't. So we're just distracted for a minute and stop asking questions.
Right.
So I think you're absolutely right. Maybe there was just like a ninja flip editing, like they're basically using it like an editing one.
Because that it's like Star Wipe for this movie because it's throughout the whole movie.
It really is.
It's not just this first scene.
Yeah. And then, basically...
So, what I liked the most, though, in terms of how the last movie wound up and where we are now...
Right.
Because the team that you're seeing, that is composed at least of 2 people that were actually in the last movie...
Talisa
Soto and Robin Shaw.
Okay.
So we got Liu Kang and we got Katana.
Mm-hmm.
And they won Mortal Kombat. So that was supposed to close whatever it is, the interdimensional doors
but
that Shao Kahn could not get through. And the answer that this movie gives, given by Raiden himself, who was once Christopher Lambert and is now is James Remar, is this line... Which is so good.
I have the same line. Go
what
ahead.
Closes can open again.
Always open again.
It's amazing. And that's all the information this movie is going to give you.
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious that line was there to retcon the end of the last film.
Yeah.
I also like that they're using an anus allergy to explain retconning. I think that's the best explanation of retconning we've ever had on this show.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and and it's really interesting. Like this movie both has a severe reliance on knowing and remembering what happened in the original films, but then will immediately throw in a surprising twist to the information that you need to know in order to understand what's going on. So lines like "Mother, you're alive."
Yes, right.
It's like, first of all, her mother's involved in this somehow. Something went on
somehow,
there,
some way,
which I don't know.
Right.
I don't know about. And I guess at some point they thought she was dead, and now they know she's alive.
Except now she's evil.
When we get into the first fight, again, flips and spins and flying, but none of it makes cinematic sense.
No, not at all.
Is not used to connect any of the shots.
No.
Right, I mean, that's the basic... as I understand it, I'm no film editor, but that is the basic point of editing, is to connect shots together, and this never happens in this movie.
Right, so that it makes sense.
Right.
And that is not on this movie's agenda list.
No. And we don't know where anyone is in relation to each other.
No.
Within the space.
I was going to say,
even where
spatial awareness is not a thing in this movie.
And again, I think we're using zooms, pans, and point of views as a way of
and
distracting
Dutch tilts,
people.
like you said.
Yeah, but also none of these camera movements have anything to do with each other.
Nope.
They're usually, in most films, they're either or, right? You either have a pan or a zoom or a POV. You don't have them all in succession.
Right.
With no relation to each other.
Well, my overall note was because, none of the fights make sense.
No.
And when your movie's based on a video game that's based primarily on fighting, you'd think that's the one thing you'd be getting right.
Well, incidentally, if you were trying to be true to the aesthetic, You never cut away from a fight scene in Mortal Kombat, the video game.
Right, exactly, right.
You only ever cut when the fight is over.
When it's done.
So there's got to be I'm not saying that video game adaptations should follow video game aesthetics, but there's got to be some allusion to that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the pleasure of the video game was watching, like, continuous fighting. Because this movie gives us none of that.
My overall note for the fighting was, clearly all you need to win a fight are some flips and a song in your heart. Because that's really all they're going to show us.
I got a sense of the naivete of 1997 in the line, "Earth does not bend to the will of tyrants."
Yeah.
I thought, oh, how innocent we were.
How cute.
This really was the before times.
We're going to fall in love with tyrants soon.
Once again, I'm jealous of their dystopia.
Yeah.
And then I think they kill a legacy character, if not actor, in the first few minutes of the movie. Is that right? I mean, he's one of the few people who had a line, so I assume.
So I don't know.
And I could have sworn this guy was going to come back to life at some point, and he never did. Everyone else in this movie dies and comes back to life. He's the only one who.
And
doesn't.
all I wrote down was about the death. I didn't write down who.
I can backpedal that.
Because there's a lot of strange shit going on. Like
Johnny Cage.
Yeah, right.
Chris Conrad is Johnny Cage.
Because Johnny Cage is in the first movie.
Is he played by Chris Conrad?
No. Different actor.
So wait a minute.
I'm pretty sure I have that right.
Only to have him die.
Yeah. So, and you're exactly right, because I also, everything goes back to normal at the end, where like mom's not a bad person anymore. Like
Right.
It seems to retcon everything for the characters.
Raiden dies about 5 or 6 times.
Yeah. And so I thought for sure we were going to see Johnny Cage again, and they just left him dead. Which I thought was astounding.
You think they'd be able to throw you like a post-credits sting of his arm coming out of the ground, given
Something.
that they have 11 minutes and 11 seconds worth of credits. More on that later.
From underneath the what was it, like sort of dragon's rock statue that.
Yeah, they full on buried him, which
Yeah.
I guess is this movie's way of saying
You're done.
He's not coming back, but doesn't seem to stop anyone else at any point. After this happens, I have a note that says that I don't know what this is in reference to. I guess once they get out of wherever we are,
Yeah.
the first place,
The cliffs.
Okay, when they get away from that and then they go into the caves.
Yes. We go from cliffs to caves.
Cliffs to caves. They start saying, "This is where you get your 6 days," and I'm asking,
Yeah.
did I miss something already? Or is this just
Well,
an arbitrary
because
timestamp
I have notes
to
that
give the film some urgency?
I have notes that the characters are saying things that the audience should be saying, like,
This-
what's going on?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The characters are just standing around reiterating different ways in which the plot has been retconned and makes no sense.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm certain about is that we have a case that with the villains, at least in principle, we're up in the ante. So they let us know that Khan is a harder villain to beat than the Sorcerer from the last film.
Yeah, but because
He
it's
doesn't
also
seem to be, but
it's
that's what
also
the film's
right
telling
around
me.
here that we see Sub-Zero again, and Sub-Zero's supposed to be a major villain, and I can't remember how. I mean, I think he had a big part in the first movie, but he seems to just throw his ice around and then he leaves.
A lot of characters throw their ice around and leave
Yeah.
in this film. I was really interested in the what they call the biosphere, this giant hamster wheel that takes you anywhere on.
Yeah. I was
around
too, because
they spend a lot of time explaining the science of how it works, which I didn't feel was necessary, given that there's a lot going on that is unexplainable.
Right.
Why are we stopping to explain this? And they stand around it going, "This is amazing. And I just thought, you've just seen gods and demons come from another
And
realm.
this is what
and
surprises
this hamster
you?
wheel
Yeah, exactly.
is the most amazing part of that.
Well, what I also liked was, you know, they're moving around in the hamster cages, and Katana is saying things like, hold on to me. Like, we have to be close. It's like they take a moment for these two shy warriors
Yes.
to try and have a boyfriend-girlfriend moment.
Right. This is, I mean, we start, this is where the Mortal Kombat Annihilation's Lucasfilm fetish starts for me as well. Because they talk about seeking out the counsel of one called Nightwolf.
Yeah.
And then you immediately go to Empire Strikes Back. You're just like, okay, so we're breaking up the ensemble, and one of the ensemble is going to some kind of wise trainer, a la Yoda.
But what I like about this movie is that they break up because one is kidnapped, which seems to be the emotional crux for a main character, but they talk about it as though it was something that happened in the last movie, yet we watched it in this movie. It happened 5 minutes ago.
Maybe they don't even know when the last film ends and this film starts.
There are lines in this movie, and it skips ahead a little bit narratively, but
I think it'll be fine. My instinct is it's fine.
There are lines in which people are talking to Liu Kang, and one person says, you have to fight on the inside. The fire inside you is the faith in yourself. And not like more than 30 seconds later, I'm pretty sure it's Brian Thompson as Shao Kahn. Brian Thompson, by the way, a white man as Shao Kahn, who says, the fire that burns inside you is your guilt because you lost Quintana. And then, of course, I wrote, 5 minutes ago. Like, how deep down is the guilt of fire exactly?
Right. Well, we don't know how fast that hamster wheel goes.
Yeah.
They could have been Fred Flintstoning it for like 10 years or something.
All right. Well, we're off to a good start. Why don't we
should take a break because you brought up Brian Thompson's Khan, and that's where I wanted to go next.
That's where you want to go next?
I have a feeling it'll be a rather long conversation, so let's break.
All right. A break we shall take, and we'll be right back right after this. Does the coronavirus have you feeling oogie? Have you been sitting on your couch for weeks? Nay, have you been sitting on there for months? Well, it's time for you to get back in shape. Check out 2AT Fitness. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on Facebook. 2AT Fitness was started by Tina Bernard. She is ready and raring to go to help you get back into the shape you want to get into. They've got all kinds of classes. They've got outdoor in-person classes. They've got online classes if that's what you prefer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get back in shape. You're going to find a variety of exercises. You're going to have strength training, cardio, weightlifting, even fun 5-minute burnouts that will push you to your limits. So get off the couch, get into shape. Go ahead and check out 2AT Fitness. Tina Bernard has got you for all your needs. I know her personally. She's fantastic. You're not going to meet a better person to help you become the new you. Check it out. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Tom and I are here, of course, talking Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the 1997, little train that could.
Breakout movie.
Yes.
Sleeper hit.
Well,
again, something's up. Something is going wrong in 1997.
Something's crazy. So you had a bee in your bonnet. You want to talk Brian Thompson?
No, I mean it looks like Brian Thompson has a bee in his face, but
right. But he's always looked like that.
So, I mean, from his first appearance, I've got that suddenly this guy in a cheap Skeletor mask appears, and it sounds like the dubbing sounds like an episode of Power Rangers.
Right.
When they dub all those like original Asian actors
Mm-hmm.
from whenever the fuck it was, but not when we're getting it in America.
But then the cheap mask comes off, and you're surprised to see an actual white man.
You're supposed to see a white man, and once you get into once he's on the throne in his, let's say, kingdom, it's just him in a t-shirt. It's just an average looking guy in a t-shirt.
Yeah.
For a little while. And then later on in the movie, he changes looks again, and he goes very Leather Club.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? Who is this guy? I mean, also, I have notes in here, like, I'm trying to figure out what this guy's deal is, basically, as an actor, not just as a character.
Well, both,
Because
frankly.
Sorry?
Both,
Both,
frankly.
yes. Yeah. But I know, having...
But the character stuff is a little more delineated. Like, you understand that he's in charge of
It's
8 arms and...
It's Thor, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
essentially?
But that he's
It's
got
the
daddy
story of
issues.
Yeah,
So there's that.
with an evil brother.
Right. But on some level, it has to do with, can I ever be evil enough for dad?
Yeah, exactly. But he, like sometimes I think the actor is struggling with the lines, and sometimes I think he did all his dialogue ADR. And then I thought, well, both those things can't be possible. You can't ADR someone when they're not saying the lines. So is that the conundrum that the editor of this movie was faced with? I have to both make it look like this guy is saying these lines, and he has to do all his lines again.
Yeah, it might be.
So, and I don't.
And it's not like, for those listening at home, you might not know the name Brian Thompson, but he's not a no-name actor.
Yeah.
He's the villain in Cobra. Like, the guy's been around.
Clearly.
And he's frightening in Cobra, by the way. Like, I really like. It's a good performance, I think.
Well, it raised a lot of questions. I wouldn't necessarily call it a good performance. I don't know how much he's a victim of this inconsistency of design in the movie.
Right, and that was my biggest question, because when you have like a James Remar, who normally I would trust implicitly, like and even
he can speak English, unlike Christopher Lambert. So
that's true. That's true. That's a plus. That's a plus in the good column. But. And like I said, Brian Thompson, I don't think he's a household name. I don't think a lot of people know him. But
he's not right for this role.
He's not at all right for this role. But so for me, as I'm watching it, I'm wondering, like, what is the balance? Like, what's the balance of blame? How much is script? Yeah. How much is the actor? How much is the director? What is happening in this movie to make everything so disjointed and strange and weird, yet strangely compelling?
Yeah, I don't think anyone is going to transcend the material here.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't think there's
And no one does. No.
And people, like people you've seen in better films doing good stuff.
I mean, we were talking about Ray Park. Maybe off air. He's in here somewhere. I couldn't find him.
He's doubling. Oh, I found him. He's doubling for Raiden.
Okay.
So anytime Raiden's doing martial arts, it's Ray Park.
All right.
But
anytime he's doing martial arts, he's just getting kicked through a wall.
Right. So, but I think part of it is that there is no consistency in terms of what these people look like. And then, like, when you get to the henchmen, they're different every time.
Yeah.
Like, in one scene, they look like Predator robots. Then suddenly they're like pig Bane men for a while. I don't know if this is a hangover from Mortal Kombat, where, you sort of change the
characters of the
characters, or it is just we couldn't make up our minds what we wanted this film to look like. But
well, because we also have main henchmen that we never really get to see do much or do anything.
Who would you count as the main henchman?
Like the woman with the 8 arms and.
Okay. Yes, true. Well, yeah. Oh, when we get to the Rogues Gallery,
there's a Minotaur kind of a guy, right?
You know who that guy is?
No.
Well, first of all, he's a pro wrestler. I'm sure that didn't come as any surprise
all right,
to you.
that makes sense.
But he also plays a pro wrestler in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. He is in fact the titular character of that episode, called Thor.
That's amazing.
And he gets into a road rage incident
with Larry. Yeah, right.
And he comes and threatens him and says, "I will make you poop your bald pants." And I couldn't unsee that. But also, when I'm watching the scene and he appears as like a demonic centaur, I was like, I don't think this is meant to be serious. This has got to be self-parody, right? I can't imagine.
Well, that's the thing, because it presents itself as serious, but ridiculous.
Yeah. That's definitely on the more ridiculous side. I mean, that's a difficult call to make, because everyone in that, in that Rogues Gallery looks like an open audition for Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
Right. No one looks menacing or monstrous. They just look like circus performers. Yeah. Of different shapes and sizes. So yeah, you're right. It's a slippery slope. But if I was betting money, I'd say that he was meant to be the comic relief of the dark side, in the way that Jax is supposed to be the comic relief of the light side of the movie, of the heroes.
Well, and I mean, it's very hard to follow the narrative, but we talked about the team kind of splitting up and going into the tunnels, and so we have, Liu Kang loses Katana.
Yeah,
we have Sonya Blade, who meets up with Jax. And then they take on. There's another flip fight, but it's like in a computer room.
Is Jax a legacy? Is Jax in Mortal Kombat?
He is. Different actor.
Is the actor?
Different actor.
No. Of course.
So, I think Sandra Hayes, or rather, that's the actor. I think Sonya Blade is a different actor. Raiden's different. Jax is different. Shao Kahn is different. Whoever was, not that he's in this movie a lot.
And this film has the audacity to do someone switching loyalty storyline. It's like, how would you know? I don't even know.
How could you possibly keep that straight, please? How dare you?
This is where we have the only fight in this movie worth its salt, where 2 henchmen are going at it, and they more or less film the combat that they're doing, without cutting away, and it looks really good. And the main cast just stand there and watch them, which makes me think the ensemble of this movie have no martial arts
skills themselves.
Because why wouldn't you? If they did, why wouldn't you show it?
Robin Chow should, though, right? Because I don't know that he has a lot of experience with other stuff. Like, it seemed to me like that's why
then why is this movie holding out on showing
higher? Yeah, I know.
So yeah, that's the only decent fight in the film, and it's only because it's two minor characters fighting, and who clearly that's what they do. That's clearly what that is their specialist skill.
This is the one in the cave.
Yeah. On the ice bridge?
On the ice bridge, right.
Another kind of Star Wars, Indiana Jones pull. And this happened.
Well, that's because did you notice? Because there was some back and forth with Sub-Zero with the CGI animation. Because there were some times, when he's shooting out ice shit, there are times where I'm like, man, that really looks bad. And then there were a couple times where I'm like, oh, that kind of looks good. I liked that.
I have notes like that too. Look, I have a note later on that said, does the destruction of Petra kind of look good? At some points in this movie, they decide to go full practical, and it looks fine.
Mm-hmm.
And they even managed to mesh video and practical like reasonably well for 1997.
Right.
And then other times it's just horrific.
It's just so bad that you have no choice but
you can't even look. You can't look at it without getting epilepsy.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. So, it's definitely a mixed bag effects wise.
And then
but there's a solid layer of shit in that bag.
Right.
So it really doesn't matter what else you put in there.
Because there's a solid layer of shit.
Did you also get the feeling that this movie was like had a Lucasfilm fetish, that like every other scene had a reference to Indiana Jones and or Star Wars?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes both.
Yeah.
Is that just like they doing a fantasy film? And
I don't know.
Need something to anchor it other than the video game that it's based on. Which
like this movie feels like it's just, well, to put it into Speed 2 parlance, it feels like it's a ship out of control and they're just dropping anchors trying to hook onto something, you know?
Very specific anchors,
yeah.
Though. You know, they got anything goes. Later on, someone says, Lou, it's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are, you know, at one point we're pretty much drinking the Kali blood in the hanging cage from Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
So I guess it is just out of desperation. It's like, people like these films.
You know what really freaked me out was that at one point I started to hear Matrix type music, and I thought, did the Wachowskis use this movie as like a waypoint?
Yeah. Well, we're getting pretty close, right?
We're 2 years away.
Yeah.
But it's at this point that like
it's computer adjacent.
Yeah, right, exactly. So we get Katana is kidnapped, and everybody's separated. And what has Raiden said? It's like you have to go off on your journeys to come together, or something like that. But
right, typical martial arts spin doctor bullshit.
Most specifically, Liu Kang has to go through his trials. Which is
with Nightwolf,
to find Nightwolf and do whatever Nightwolf says, which I guess is to fight Nightwolf, which is to find out that Nightwolf is working against you, but working against you to work with you, but in the end Nightwolf is actually working against you.
I
think I have that right.
I think you do, even though it makes no sense. I kind of like. I was surprised that I don't think I've ever seen a werewolf detransforming as its entrance.
Yeah, right.
He starts as a werewolf and then turns into a
martial arts.
That's a neat switcheroo on the old werewolf formula. There's moments in this film that are quite interesting, but they don't last more than 10 seconds normally.
Mm-hmm.
And then a ninja flips in your face, and you forgot what happened or what's going on.
This movie,
which is what the movie
this
wants
movie
to.
forces you at any moment in this movie to try and figure out what's going on, and this movie will force you to move on.
Right. Yeah.
You cannot dwell. If you have a question, and I have a note here that says this movie makes you do nothing but ask way too many questions, but you cannot sit and ponder them at all. You have to move on.
But you're also right that this is another one of those films, and we're starting to see this a lot in bad sequel filmmaking, where the characters are also asking these questions on screen.
On screen. Jax especially.
But, I mean, that's Jax's function, isn't it? To ask questions, because he doesn't know what's going on. For obvious reasons.
I also have a note that says, does Jax always yell his dialogue?
Right. I think one of the characters at some point says, does this mean what I think it does? And I was like, I don't know. What does a dragon butterfly coming out of a robot mean? You tell me. These the questions I have for you. Dialogue-wise, there's some absolute crackers here.
Yeah.
I think at one point Lou says, "We don't have time for the slow way."
Right.
Which is, again, sounds like a translated phrase from another language. Because if you were going to break that down, you'd be like, just say we don't have time, or just say this is going too slow. Like, you don't need both.
I can't even remember what this is.
That's a palindromic sentence. It starts with the same thing that it ends with.
I wrote down that somebody at some point says, "This is almost too good to be true."
This is where I started to get concerned about how women were being treated in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Around about the mud wrestling scene.
So, that's one of my big notes was, this movie, I wrote down, this movie has female mud wrestling equivalency.
Yeah. And Jax even says you do look good in mud.
Yes. Which
means that, like, exploitation and objectification of women's bodies is not only on the movie's mind, it's on its lips, too.
Yeah.
But if you think about it overall, like, the women in this movie they're so exposed physically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just that they have to be wearing booty shorts or bondage gear or bikinis to fight in the first place.
But what you realize is that
just pose, not even fight. Then nobody's
fighting, so it doesn't matter. But what you realize is that this movie dresses it up as though the female characters are very capable.
Yeah.
But no matter how capable they are, the movie doesn't treat them as capable or equal because they're all parading around in skimpy outfits and mud wrestling and shit like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a count against the movie for sure.
It's a very big count against the movie. I don't know. Is this around the time of Lara Croft and Tomb Raider? Seems like
it. That sounds about right.
It seems to be drawing on that.
Yeah, it does. And even if the movies haven't come out yet...
It has more in common with other video games.
Right, I was just going to say, even if the movies aren't out yet, it's drawing from the video game.
Which is not what it's not what it's an adaptation of.
Yeah.
So it's another mark against the movie.
I also wrote down that Surfer Raiden shows up.
Right, and this is sort of a pretty savage indictment of what Earthman is like, right? As soon as this god becomes human, he becomes like a...
He's a bro. He's like,
insult
hey,
comic.
man.
But this is also a classic example when Raiden becomes human temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of told that means he doesn't have any powers anymore, and then he immediately says, "I'll try to open a portal while I still can."
Yes, exactly.
It's like, well, don't say that he doesn't have any powers. Then
when he has powers,
yeah. I swear, every time Raiden says anything about portals in this movie,
yeah, right,
it's different every time, and each one contradicts itself. I guarantee it.
That's amazing. I also despite the fact that he's trying to open the portal, it doesn't matter because we have, is it the mother who has the scream power?
I hate to say it, you're asking the wrong person. I don't know who you would ask, but it ain't me.
So,
because I wasn't following.
So, whichever character, I'm pretty sure it is. This, the mom that's good and bad.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Shinnok,
one of the sirens from
so she has the scream power.
Did you know that?
What's that?
She's a siren from Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
I did notice that, actually. I know, yeah.
Immediately recognized that.
And she knocks down his portal anyway.
Oh, wow.
Which is right when I wrote down, this is the sloppiest narrative ever.
Yeah, it really is. And at this point, we
I also wrote down, because we're going back and forth, and Liu Kang is battling Nightwolf, and he Nightwolf says you have to pass tests, and then he passes one test. They're like, all right, let's go.
Nightwolf goes, actually, we only have time for one, so... I don't know though. It's kind of the same in The Empire Strikes Back. We need to train you as a Jedi.
That's true.
You stood on your head. No,
you moved some rocks. Let's go.
You went in the cave and had a bad dream. That'll do it. That's fine. Petra.
Yes. Go on.
From Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the city of Petra appears. And this is what I mean about this is the part of the movie where we transition into something of a practical movie with like actual physical locations.
Yes.
And then suddenly, there suddenly seems to be a huge number of extras.
Yeah.
The Annihilation Squad, I'm like, fuck, that's a lot of people.
Right.
Like every time we've had a scene before.
Well,
it's been
not
like
just
2 or
that,
3
but
people.
we're on location.
We're on location.
So we're seeing
Petra,
a huge
like
number of people there.
It's not like they're in, a quarry or a parking lot. This is Petra.
Right.
Like associated with big budget franchise cinema. Right. Itself one of the wonders of the world. I think that's what they spent their money on.
Like you said, you're like, oh my God, are we back at Indiana Jones' Last Crusade?
Yeah. Well, it's got to be at that point. I mean, that's your only reference, really. I think. Well, what are we at? We're at Petra, Annihilation Squad.
Well, that's when the scream comes in and she's knocking down the portal, but somehow they get into where Katana is kidnapped.
And there's more walking around in this movie than the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy plus the Hobbits.
And the Hobbits added extra walk. The Hobbits added extra walking just to get to 3 movies.
Right. Different henchmen every time, more flipping than fighting.
Well, so when we get to the place where Katana is kidnapped, because it's shortly after we're in Petra, we're seeing like hundreds of the warriors chasing after them.
Yeah.
But then we get to where she's kidnapped, and they're setting a trap for Liu Kang, and the trap includes 3 fighters and 1 8-armed, villain, super villain, and that's about it.
And while this is all happening, the 2 realms are collapsing into each other.
Right.
Visually represented as Paris is falling into the Eiffel Tower. Actually, just the Eiffel Tower. And I tell you something that hasn't dated very well. The 2 shots in succession of the Twin Towers collapsing into the earth. And I was willing to give this movie a break because it's pre 9/11, and then I thought, well, it's post 1993 when the World Trade Center was bombed, so maybe let's just stay away from that location altogether. What's wrong with the Statue of Liberty or the White House? Yeah. Something that is not vulnerable to terrorist attack in the same way.
I wrote down Brian Thompson versus Alan Rickman. Does he have a fall?
Oh, are you talking about his daddy looking like Alan Rickman? I don't know.
Oh, maybe maybe that's it.
No.
Oh, I also have a note, like, why throughout almost this entire movie, after Liu Kang has won Mortal Kombat, does he have no confidence?
I guess that the depressing answer is you've got to reset because you got to reset the character. I suppose again that fits into the Lucasfilm logic of you could say the same about Luke. He's blown up the Death Star, and then the next movie is just him getting his ass handed to him by various people who he already beat in the first movie. So I'll give him a pass on that.
All right. Well, I mean, we're kind of approaching the end of this movie, so why don't we take one more break?
Oh, okay. Are we really? I couldn't tell from my notes.
I mean, we got the last battle to go. He's got to save Katana, and then he's got to fight Brian Thompson.
And then we've got 11 minutes of credits to talk about.
Very good, then. All right. We're going to take another break, everybody, and we'll be right back.
I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had one, maybe two craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need, the Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys matches beer expert Dan Aker with self-proclaimed beer novice Stephen J. Weiss. The results are eminently drinkable. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They'll try new beers, they'll tell you about beer. Think of them as your beer Sherpas guiding you up a foamy-headed mountain to reach the peak of your pint. God, I need a beer.
Once again, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Tom and I are here sussing out Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Not doing a great job.
No easy task. If this,
we've been really up against it recently. We've done David Lynch movies, and then Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I mean, I can't think of two movies, a director and a movie that are harder to unlock.
If this podcast sounds disjointed, that's not us. That's the movie. All right, Tom. So, as I was saying before we went to break, Liu Kang has to save Katana, who, by the way, we haven't talked about because we know.
Talisa Soto.
We know Talisa Soto
from
License to Kill, James Bond. Yeah.
It also won't be the last time I mention License to Kill in this series. And James Bond ever.
Oh, no. And that one was me. I'll take responsibility for that one. 54 minutes in, everyone. James Bond rears its head.
There you go. That's how far we are away from the norm. That's how much we've strayed talking about this film that now you are doing the James Bond references. It's basically a parallel universe at this point.
What do you make about that, by the way? I know you haven't seen the first movie or really played the game, but you have this, sort of hero female character.
So I'm qualified to answer this, clearly.
And the first thing they do is kidnap her, throw her in a cage, and leave her there for most of the movie.
She got off easy, right?
That's true.
That's my feeling.
Yeah,
but,
as an actor, for sure.
As an actor, for sure. Yeah, and they don't, and she's seen, making combat gestures, but once again, we don't actually have any contact between people shown, so I can't tell whether
she's good at it.
Right, but no one is. I don't think they're singling her out.
No, no.
But I mean, she's the actor herself has recently been diagnosed with breast cancer, which is very sad.
Oh no.
But she's her longevity, the longevity of her looks is, I think, unparalleled.
Absolutely.
She looks the same today as she did then, or in License to Kill.
Right.
She's a very compelling presence. Obviously, she's a Bond girl, and they're trading off that. But
that's one of the things I didn't like about this movie. I was like, I'd like
a hell of a lot to do in this movie.
Right.
Again, why bring her back? Why not? Why they should have done the opposite from Johnny Cage.
I was just gonna say
they should have recast her and then put her in a literal cage. For the movie, rather than killing off someone that they took the time to recast. Yeah. And I suppose you could say that she does have the more interesting of the subplots in the movie because of the mother-daughter kind of soap opera that's going on under the surface of this, which to be fair, you don't have to be following the plot to understand. It's just like
it's just sort of there.
It's just a classic mother and daughter kind of dynamic.
But what do you do with your evil mom when you can't you want to kill her but can't kill her because you hope she'll become good again?
Right, exactly. It's a good question. Again, I think that's one of the questions that the editor and the director are asking each other.
Yeah, how do we do this?
Before they add another flying ninja.
They're asking themselves, how do we do this? And they're like, I don't know. We already filmed everything. We got to choose something from here.
Yeah.
But at any rate, he does. You know, it's funny because so Liu Kang kind of comes in and he has to fight like 3 people.
Yeah.
To get her out of the cage, and he gets her out of the cage and saves her, and now everybody's back together.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, Raiden still cannot see Ray Blast just coming straight to his chest. That guy is always being thrown through a wall.
Yeah.
The mystical, magical, powerful Raiden.
At some point, I lost track of whether he was alive or dead.
Yeah, right.
I have this note. I have Raiden resurrected. Death and life seems to be in a state of flux in this franchise. And then in real time, I wrote, I think he just died again.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So the world is back. Or I mean,
yeah.
That's what the film is telling us. As far as we know visually, only Paris, San Francisco, New York, and this specific temple are back.
Yes.
Because that's all we've seen.
Also, were you surprised by the end of this movie, as I was, when Jax takes his arms off, but they're sleeves? The robot arms are sleeves? I thought those were his new arms.
They made such a big deal of him augmenting his body with technology.
Yeah.
I assume that was the only explanation. But once again, you know, that is typical of this movie. We lay something down as true, and then we immediately walk it back.
What I need to win this fight that I'm losing is to get rid of my technology and just use my bare arms.
Well, that's his arc, sadly, isn't it? In the film.
Doesn't he also, towards the beginning of this movie, take a blast to one of those arms that like makes you think it melted off, and then it just doesn't?
Yeah. Right, absolutely.
All right. So I'm not
I
crazy.
agree.
The movie's crazy.
The movie's crazy. I like that Khan and his dad got sucked up into some kind of Phantom Zone suitcase at one point.
Right.
You mentioned Superman 2. That made me think of...
Very much. The Phantom Prison.
The Phantom Zone. Again, I think this movie just pulling from anything out of
I wrote down.
desperation.
I wrote down the arms are sleeves? ? I also thought it was hysterical that we have gone through this entire movie for the team to come together to become a team, and then they all start fighting their individual fights, and what do?
Yeah.
Immediately start losing. Nobody's winning their fight.
There is a point where the fate of the universe is depending on people artlessly kicking the shit out of each other to mid-90s techno.
Yeah.
And you know, but again, I challenge this movie to lean into that more. You know, I don't know what you would call this, you know, a video game movie or a martial arts movie, but certainly in a martial arts movie, you know, there's no pretense that this is just going to end up being a series of fights, right?
Right.
And the fighting is going to build until it's like you end with the biggest fight. But this movie somehow hasn't got that memo, which is weird for a movie called Mortal Kombat. That has apparently trained martial artists in the cast. They're just never seen connecting
doing
with
martial
each other's
arts.
limbs. Yeah.
In the sense of two people actually striking each other.
So it's very confusing.
Instead of flipping near each other.
Did you get a sense of like a kind of weak attempt at a global warming metaphor with the kind of merging of two realms.
A little bit,
and
yeah.
Collapse of the Earth. I mean, very, very, very weak,
Tenuous, but ever so slight.
I latched onto that at an early point, and it it's kind of a through line. Don't follow it too closely.
Well, and so then we have the fight of what's supposed to be the fight of all fights. But turns into more of, like, I mean, my note was holy animation fight, Batman. Now that's late into the fight, but I mean, it's something else. This movie really goes to 11 with that choice.
Yep. Yep. Well, there you go. We got there before Kill Bill.
And it made me giggle with glee.
Oh, okay.
Because it was so silly. No? Not for you?
I didn't enjoy it, but yeah, good. I mean, I liked how they kept punctuating the action scenes with like synthesizer keynotes.
Yes.
Like old school. Duh, duh, kind of. I mean, it was. I got the sense they were going for like Harryhausen stop motion. People turning into dragons and snakes, but you know, as soon as you do that in close up and against a different background, it doesn't look good.
No, of course not.
So there's a good 10 seconds.
But you don't find
like,
it.
Oh,
yeah.
And then you go, oh,
yeah. See, I don't do that. I go, oh, and then I go,
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I appreciated it. I mean, yeah. What is the henchman sort of in that scene reminded me more of Devo. So there's three phases. There's Predator Robot, Pigbane Man, and Devo.
Yeah.
None of which, you know, is anything that scares or threatens me or anyone at any point. Yeah.
Well, needless to say, there's a lot of hullabaloo, but Liu Kang's going to win his fight. Dad's...
we assume. We don't see any contact.
Well, right.
He could just be in a room on his own, punching.
I think he is.
He's in a padded cell, imagining himself in a movie called Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Having been driven insane by playing the video game.
And we haven't talked a lot about this, but of course, Dad's upset with Brian Thompson.
There's a kind of Thor...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the reveal of that Raiden is... I assume we don't know that from the first movie, that Raiden is his brother.
Right.
Okay. So...
We should have mentioned that.
We shouldn't... Well, I had questions about that. Is that from the video game? Is that from the first movie? Or is it just stealing from Thor?
I can't answer those questions.
I know you can't. That's why I'm not asking them. But, you know, again, soap opera, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's basically, it's like, let's try and give this like an emotional pull through.
Don't you think it's funny, though, how much emotional weight they try to jam-pack in the last 5 minutes of this movie?
Yeah.
You know, after our heroes finally win their fights, after losing their fights, Raiden says, "You're a family now." And my note is, why is that?
Well, there you go.
Why are they a family now?
Yeah, you're just a...
They spent most of the movie separated, not working together towards one common goal.
Is that the screenwriters telling themselves that? Because it's basically an entirely different set of actors now.
Right.
They're a family now. But they're not the same... A family!
I said you're a family. Now sit down and have some dinner.
Yeah.
But also, we go back to the start of the movie, except for Johnny. Johnny Cage gets to stay dead.
Johnny Cage gets to stay dead. So this, so this temple, this is where does Mortal Kombat end with the shit going down?
I don't remember.
Know. Well, let us know, everyone.
Yeah, help us out.
Help us.
You know
out.
how I watched that movie? Friend of the show.
On a TV or TV screen. I don't know what you mean. How?
I watched that.
With your
I watched
legs
that
behind
movie
your
with
head?
friend
What?
of the show, and twice guest Matthew Aldrich and other friends
okay.
on a Netflix watching party where you get to like watch the movie and then type in comments to each other while you're watching it on your computer.
Wait, the original Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So you've seen this within the last couple of years.
Yes.
That then your lack of a memory is inexcusable.
I know. Well, I probably was drinking.
Yeah, and it's not 1992, which is the sort of
That's
the
where
high
my
watermark of your movie
memory
memories.
high watermark exists. Don't ask me anything from a couple years ago. How dare you?
Well, maybe ask Matt if he remembers anything,
He'll probably remember.
and he can ask him and report back to us.
Indeed, I will.
Specifically about
How it ends?
Yeah, like does it end with the beginning of this movie, or is the beginning of this movie just total retcon
Right.
from the start?
I don't remember this being the end. I'm
Okay.
confident in that.
Fair enough. That's all I have besides credits. I say that
As if
I
that's
don't
not
have
going to be a lot.
A lot. I mean, this is extensive because, as I've said a couple of times already, 11 minutes and 11 seconds worth of credits. Now, we're used to that in modern day franchise cinema.
Not
But in
1997 and not for a 90-minute movie.
Exactly. That's got to be a huge chunk of the film for the film it is and for when it was made, right?
Right.
So they're really padding at this point. I mean, it's very clear.
My first question.
Okay.
Well, no, I'll let you go.
Oh well, no, go ahead.
Well, because I think it's towards the end of the credits. So if you want to start at the beginning.
Okay. This film is edited by Peck Pryor, which is
It's a made-up name.
no, well, not just a name, but also advice on how to handle yourself in a fight if you're a chicken. We've done Ray Park.
Yes.
One of the many ways in which it feels like this movie is ramping up to the Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a moment in this movie where we get a Star Wars wipe to a mountain range, and then some bad CGI comes in, and I'm like, we're getting close to Phantom Menace here.
Right.
Speaking of not real people, the music department recorded and mixed by I can't get through this. I can't. This film was recorded and mixed by John Wynott.
You made that up.
And there's a guitarist on the soundtrack called Buckethead. These are not real people. These are Mike Judge characters.
Right. All this does is raise this level up for me a little bit.
Now this along with another one of the movies in this series, this is the first of two suspiciously specific disclaimers that this movie has.
Okay.
The other one being in Speed 2 Cruise Control. It says that there are no depictions of harm to sacred Thai structures.
I know. Yes, that was one of my notes.
Which makes me think they caused harm to a Thai structure at some point in filming this movie. That's like coming into a room and saying, "I didn't murder the parrot." You know, it's
me?
It's so specific that you definitely did it.
It started like out of respect to the people of Thailand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I thought, what? So America and France are just fair game, and so is all of Petra, one of the seven wonders of the world.
Exactly.
That's all I have. But there's another one
Well,
like that in Speed 2 Cruise Control to look forward to.
I was wondering who Nicholas was.
Just Nicholas?
This movie, it said, this movie's dedicated to Nicholas. No last name. Last name unknown Nicholas.
Just like this movie to end on a narrative enigma.
Right?
Well, do you think anyone knows? Maybe. So we need listeners to fill us in on.
You know that there
every
are
question we've asked. Every question that we've asked that begins with "Does this happen in Mortal Kombat?" and who is Nicholas?
Help us out.
And which tie structure did they destroy?
Which tie structure did they hurt? Oh my goodness!
Methinks the lady doth protest too much.
Right? I
Oh yeah, I actually have another credit now.
Oh.
The fire effect on the credits is going to give someone epilepsy. But then
Is that in the credits?
Yeah, if there's like a fire effect on the credits, like a fire filter. And I was like, someone has epilepsy. This is going to trigger.
I
them.
thought you meant
if you've got to this point of the film and not had an epileptic attack, you probably never will.
Well, I thought you meant that the movie wrote out in print the fire effects in this movie may give you epilepsy.
No, it's 1997.
Which would be an
we didn't make those
amazing
admissions
credit
yet.
to put in at the end of your movie after people are done watching it. That would be fantastic.
And again, another suspiciously specific
right
admission, right? That's really all I had. I mean, I had a lot of overall notes about this movie creates a mythology only to create a series of workarounds to the mythology they create. So there's always
absolutely.
There's always like a temporary pass,
right,
to whatever they have established you can't do.
Well, it's along the same lines of Liu Kang's,
which I guess is what happens in video games.
Maybe.
I don't know if that's the reference they're making, but it's like when you get a cheat in a video game.
Yeah, because his arc is to have to, take control and have confidence in himself as a fighter after having won Mortal Kombat. And he has to get over his losing katana.
It would make sense if this was a trilogy where he could be built back up in the last
movie.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is they do it all in this movie. He loses katana, and they're like, "You lost katana," and he goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe I lost katana." I'm like, it seemed pretty reasonable. Like somebody just came out of the air and just took her away.
Again, I'd say The Last Jedi is not too different from that.
No, you're right.
So maybe there's more to this kind of Lucasfilm fetish that the movie
and maybe it's the sort of thing of the borrowing again, like I was saying with Matrix. Maybe the Wachowskis and maybe Lucas himself. Maybe they all drew from Mortal Kombat Annihilation in one way or another.
Maybe. If anyone has any more information on that,
yeah, by all means.
I think it would have come out by now if this was the point of inspiration.
All right.
I think we would have heard about that.
Anything left for you, sir?
No, that's absolutely it. Did you cover your credit?
Yeah.
Oh, was it the tie structures?
Yeah.
I'm glad that you clocked that.
That was amazing.
Because it is like, if you hadn't said anything, no one would ever think about it.
Exactly.
But if you're suddenly saying that at the end of your movie,
I just love, out of respect to the people of Thailand, it's like, normally we would just come in and knock everything over and not give a fucking shit.
Yeah. It says more. It says more about what it's not saying than what it says.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is to say, we totally did that.
We totally did it, yeah.
But we paid them a lot of money to say we didn't do it.
Yes.
That's how that budget got up to $30 million. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well,
repaying repaying the Thai government. Another financial mystery solved by the Everything Sequel
There you
podcast.
go. We speculate and we solve. Every time we speculate, we're right. I'd like to think we're...
Every time we speculate, I have to do a lot of research to come up with the conclusion that we're sort of
so
right.
that we can't get sued.
Yeah.
You want to get sued? All right. Well, are you a lover of Mortal Kombat? Do you love Mortal Kombat Annihilation? You're going to have to let us know. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Send us that email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, Michael Shantz here of the How Dare You Awards. When you hear us next, we'll be talking Speed 2 Cruise Control. Say goodbye to the good people, Tom.
Wait a second, that tattoo, I've seen it before, and a robot and a woman, they both tried to kill me.
That's a good,
that's
a good closer.
Sometimes you need to revisit dialogue just to check that it's really dialogue.
Right.
And that some of the treatment hasn't crept into the script.
All right, everyone. Take care. What a gloriously bad movie. Followed up by another gloriously bad movie.
1997. The hits keep coming.
Speed 2 Cruise Control coming at you next. No brakes. right after, well, not right after this. Just the next time you hear us.